What's up, everyone, and welcome to a tier list where I'll be covering all the Power Ranger colors throughout the years. Now, I'm starting with green because it's my favorite color, and coincidentally, a lot of my favorite Rangers are in the Green Ranger color. All right, let's start off in order with Tommy. Obviously, you've heard in many of my videos that I love him as the Green Ranger, but I also have to account for that his character was heavily underused, deal with all the limitations in the storyline that they could not use. While I love Green Ranger over White Ranger, I still have to account to how well they use the characters. And obviously I'm not going to rate Tommy as an F, but he's not going to be an S. So I say overall, as the first Green Ranger, he's going to be a B. Which moves us on to Adam and Zeo, where he kind of became the peak of his character because, at the beginning of season 2 when he came in, of course, he's replacing Zach, which is a, big position. Technically, Zach at the time was second in command, and now obviously Rocky became second in command when Tommy got promoted. He was handled much better than, sadly, Rocky. So I started to, grow on the character as he went along. He was still rusty, of course, because again, the trio that came in, they didn't really know what to do. But Adam was the far more competent of the three, especially in Zeo, where he got those really good episodes. When Adam found out that Skull could actually play the piano, like in those type of bottle episodes, that really made him shine. Then, of course, he had some really good leader moments, especially when he returned to help Carlos out and in space. So, yeah, I think, Adam's going to get a solid A. Well, that leaves us to now Carlos. Now, I know Adam obviously was the Green Ranger in Turbo as well, but Carlos is the one who had the position the most. So I always consider Carlos and everyone who replaced the original team as their primary, role as the Turbo Rangers. So Carlos, now he's the best of the replacements in Turbo because he got the most, the most development out of all of them because, everyone just came in at the last minute. And I did like his journey because he was, kind of a dick. He didn't want to listen. He didn't want to be a part of a team. He wanted to be always the hot shot, the one that was the center of attention. So he had some growing to do. And it was also a really great way to use Sentai footage that had nothing to do with the episode. Getting his journey through, trying to be a teammate, I would honestly give him a solid A as well. Now, Damon has always been one of my favorites because you know why? I always like the intelligent characters, it doesn't matter who, but then you also have Damon's snarky attitude. I just remember when we first see him in Lost Galaxy's pilot where it's like, what are you guys doing? Kai walks in and he's going, yeah, I need the Astro Mega ship because we have to go save my friends. And he's like, are you serious? There's no way you're going to take it off. And then, Kai, he could see it, and Kai's like, well, I don't give a crap. I need to save my friends, and I'm going to try with this old bucket of bolts. You could see in his eyes, he wants to do the right thing, but also he's like, I know I can fix it. I know I can get it to work. And that's what I really loved about his character, especially when he got a lot of good focus episodes. Compared to a lot of the other Rangers in general, besides obviously Leo since he's the leader, Damon got some really great side episodes. I love when he had to go to the Scorpion Stinger to repair their engines, or they would kill people. I loved his, his honor and also his respect to his work. Even though, in his episode where he got technically screwed out of his plans stolen from that guy in that particular episode, it was more in the fact that if you use these plans, we're going to get screwed. Don't use them. It wasn't even the fact that he took them. So yeah, he deserves an S. I really enjoyed his character, and honestly, in some ways, I wish he was the Red Ranger rather than the Green. Which leads us up to Joel, following in his footsteps. I did really like Joel. He had a lot of personality to him. Obviously, everyone probably is his favorite bit of him and Miss Fairweather, him always playing with her. He liked her. She did like him, so they constantly that back and forth. And even though he's an idiot, and there are times where he got the team almost screwed, he worked over that. He was a very solid character. Could he have been better? Yeah, there's some times where I wish he was better. Again, it was probably because they just didn't have that much footage they could use of him overall. But when he had his moments, usually whenever there's a joke, he was good. In recent Power Ranger seasons, a lot of jokes don't really land, and then more so you hated them. But when it came to Joel in those days, I don't recall any time that I hated when he was on screen. He was never annoying. His jokes landed. He was in the right spots where he screwed up and saved the day, especially when he had his kid friend there in that episode. So yeah, he's not as good as Adam and Carlos, but he's a solid B. This leaves us to Trip. Now, obviously, Trip is very close to his Sentai counterpart. He's an alien. He even has a different hair color, dues, and whatnot. Of course, he has his friendship with Circuit, which gave him a lot of good episodes. But I think, honestly, I would want to rate him higher, but after a certain point, they kind of didn't know what to do with him. Now, this is not the fault of the Sentai either. His counterpart actually got a lot more to do in the Sentai, but I think it was just because there was so much emphasis on Wes, Jen, the whole time travel aspect, his father, Rancic. There was just so much of the American original material where Trip kind of got lost. Not as bad as, of course, Katie and Lucas, because those characters completely got screwed. Early on episodes, Trip had some really good ones. You know, him when he screwed up with Circuit on Shore. Of course, he had the racism episode base. But he did get weaker as the season progressed. Maybe it was also a problem when they had after 9/11 and all those issues. Maybe certain things were cut. Who knows? I'm just theorizing. But yeah, while I do love his character, toward the end, he kind of just got lost. So I have to give him a C. Now, Cam, obviously, everyone knows that he's my favorite Ranger out of 30 years. When I first saw Cam, it's like Damon. They never really mixed a smart guy with something else. Usually whenever it's just Billy, he's always just a smart guy. Yeah, of course, he grew and evolved throughout the 3 years, so he became more than a smart guy, but that was his main shtick. Like Damon, Cam had the cool side to him, even though the other Rangers didn't think he was cool. And then when he came out with his own powers, I thought it was really cool because it's a connection to his mother, and not to mention, it was a far better story compared to the Sentai counterpart. Now, I know the Sentai counterpart, he was a mystery, and they couldn't really do a lot of things with him, but you still have to care about the character, and Cam did that far more better. I loved his cyber cam. I loved his Zord. I loved his, his suit. His suit was a very much harken back to Tommy's suit. And the only really thing I kind of hated was they cut out the baseball stuff from him. I mean, I get it. Personality-wise, it wouldn't really make much sense, but it was also a weird censor issue, which then Super Megaforce completely ignored, and they showed the baseball ability in those episodes. Yeah, he's going to definitely go into S because I just loved who he was, his journey. And, even though he lost his powers near the end of the season, he still fought to the end and helped out the team. This leaves us to Bridge. Now, obviously, everyone loves his buttery joke. There are some aspects of the character that kind of got annoying, or they just didn't explore right. Obviously, he's a mixture of actually two of the Deca Ranger characters, Green and Yellow. They took his super abilities, kind of basically what Jasmine was in Deca Ranger, and of course he takes a lot of the personality from Sen. He kind of suffered the same way as Trip. You like him, he says all the perfect dumb jokes, you enjoy his personality, what he brings to the table, and all the annoyances. And he did have that really good episode where he got stuck inside the room. I really wish he used his superpowers more often because they would have been useful in a lot of cases which they love to ignore. After episode 10, he kind of gets lost, and then you kind of see him again near the end, especially the Insomnia episode. That's kind of where another best episode of his was. He had all that dumbness in the episode where they were trying to remember what happened during that heist and stuff. Everyone was remembering it wrong. He's a solid character. I just wish he got more to do, so he's just going to be a B. Now, Xander. Now, I do like him. I loved his personality. Honestly, I will argue he's better than Makito, even though Makito and Maji Ranger did a lot more stuff and it was a better character overall. I did like the whole playing Xander, him trying to talk down the bad guys, and we know it's never going to freaking work. He too kind of got lost because, again, with Maji Ranger, a lot of the characters' stuff did not get adapted, and they didn't fill in a lot of the gaps. So you have Xander in these weird moments where he's just not there. I enjoy him trying to be the second leader of the team, screwing up, everyone kind of crapping over him. I did like the episode where he was turning into a plant. He's not as bad as Trip. No, I'm not going to give him that. I think what it is ultimately, I just wish he got more done. It was just, again, this was the problem with Nick Show, constantly following Nick. So he suffered from that. So I'm still going to give him a solid B, but you know, he's in the more closer to the C range. Now, Master Phant in Jungle Fury, I do count. He is a Spirit Ranger, but he's still a Green Ranger. And I did like Master Phant's character. Of the three teachers, I think overall more interesting. You had the baggage with Casey and his teacher, because it was RJ's father, and you had Theo with his master, and they had their particular quirks, and because of their personalities being like, you know, very straightforward, very just focused on the job, couldn't really do that much interaction with them, while Master Phant had Lily. They had a lot of stuff to work with. Obviously, you know, in Gekko Ranger, he was far more emotive, more funny, more kind of Master Roshi. The fun nature of Master Phant was still there. Now, honestly, I liked his weapon better out of all the other ones. You could bash people from long range, and you had these really cool, you know, flipping and stuff. So it made really cool. And then when he became a Spirit Ranger, I was like, wow, I wish PR did this more often. It would have been cool if RPM did that with the Dinozords, because we got figures in the toy line, but we never got Rangers. Between the cool suit, Master Phant's personality, where it was enjoyable every time he was on screen. So yeah, I'm going to give him a solid B. Now Ziggy, you know, he's ridiculous, he's annoying. I did like his episode where he was forced to put the morpher on, or they would have stole it, and then of course he has to now learn to be a ranger. It's amazing how well Dylan dealt with him, but Dylan was the only one who kept giving him a chance. And this is not because of the Sentai footage. Again, Dylan and Ziggy are completely different characters from their counterparts. And it just like, I think what it is that ultimately Dylan kind of felt like Ziggy was his younger brother, because he was missing his sister. So I think at the same time, he was like, okay, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's going to die out here if I don't help him. So I don't care how annoying he is, I'm going to keep his ass safe. And what I liked most about Ziggy is that he grew over the year, more so than other characters. He went from someone who was a backstabber idiot who owed money, and he learned slowly how to fight and deal with, you know, all this stuff in his own way. And then he's kind of the most important part of the story, because he's the one who kind of helps Dr. K to break out of her problem, because she lived through all that horrific stuff. She didn't have really anyone to talk to, even though when she finally revealed herself to the Rangers as a person, no one really didn't know what to do with her, and Ziggy was the only one who really tried. So from all that, I'm going to definitely give him a solid A. He was a very important character all the way up into the end. Now, Mike, everyone always says he was the best character, especially when they had started the season during episode 3, which I always thought was stupid. It did help his character overall, because if we saw Mike from episode 1 and 2, he was really rough. He's trying to be Chiaki from Shinkenger. You can clearly see they wanted to keep a lot of the elements, but then they didn't kind of know what to do with him, because he has to be an American guy. He can't be a Japanese guy. So there was a lot of elements that just kind of get lost, and the jokes didn't hit that much with him. So it's like, I don't totally hate him, and they do give him some decent episodes, but overall, I think it's because I do commend him for not sucking up to Jaden all the damn time, while a lot of the other characters did. So ultimately, I'm going to put him in C. Like, he was okay, but he could have been much more better. Speaking of better, unfortunately, Jake, just like all of the Megaforce cast, didn't really get anything to do. He had 2 different characters to pull from. Didn't care one bit at all. So you have all this oddity of when he becomes the Green Ranger, he's acting all stupid. And that's completely contradictory to his character, Jake. Hardly they do anything with him, because again, his counterpart was so different in Go Sager. The only thing he really had was the whole love relationship with Gia, and I know they do pay it off at the end with a little kiss, but for the most part, he got nothing to do. He wasn't second in command. He wasn't a sister to Yellow anymore. There was nothing there for him to do with the footage. He was a nothing burg character, which is unfortunately plagues all of the Megaforce cast. Unfortunately, I'm going to put him in F. Now, Riley, He's hit and miss with me. For me, I thought he was going to be a really good character. Going by the first 6 episodes of Dino Charge, I was like, oh, good. It kind of like Billy, more analytic. I like that. But because he's so different from his counterpart, as you go along, and this is kind of the problem with having the huge cast, he gets very, very lost and forgotten about. And of course, he had his connection with Xenowing. But because of the way the Sentai footage was not used well, Xenowing's character like really had nothing to do, so then Riley had nothing to do. And ultimately, I'm going to put him at C. Not horrible character, but not really much to his personality. Which leaves us to Izzy, our last Green Ranger. I think she's okay. The problem was, again, because they changed the character from her Sentai counterpart. Obviously, he was a guy at the time, too. They couldn't really use any of the stories from Blue Soldier. And, of course, there was nothing used in the Q Ranger footage at all of the character. So she's fun. She will take charge when a situation goes bad. After that stuff, really, she kind of just got nothing to do. It's like he did the whole stuff with her brother, then her girlfriend, then that's it. Like, I really wish she had more featured her being a ranger. Her best trait was her civilian side, but when it became a ranger, she didn't get really anything to do. It's kind of the opposite problem a lot of characters have in the past, where it's like, oh, we focus so much on their ranger side, but then no one gives a crap about their civilian side. It was just strange in this case. I'm going to end up putting her as C. She's not a horrible character, but she got really nothing to do, and it was just mostly cliche stuff. Any real originality just kind of got like finished within like the first few episodes, and then that was really it. I mean, I think this is a good start. Now, obviously, a few people are going to be asking, well, what about like, you know, some of the smaller colors, white? How do you count Blue Centurion, for example? Things like that. For any of the smaller amount of colors, like purple, orange, things like that, I'll just put them together to make it an easier list. And not everything will be consistent. Like, for example, Jake, I'm not going to bother with his Black Ranger. Well, you know, Adam, we'll talk about him with his other colors when they come up. So thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will continue on the Yellow Rangers. If you have a suggestion or a topic you'd like me to cover, leave a comment down below, and I may use it next time.